Today we're going to talk about how to arm and disarm a Bosch Intrusion panel with a valid token. Before we get started, let's cover a few prerequisites. First, you want to run the latest version of ACM. You also need to make sure that you have a compatible Bosch Intrusion panel, and you need to make sure that the Bosch integration has been set up. Finally, knowledge of ACM identities, tokens, global actions, and linkages, as well as the Bosch RPS software are required. Let's go ahead and jump right into the configuration. So the first thing we need to do is go to Global Actions, and you'll see here that I've already set up my global actions, but let's take a look at the detail. So the first one is the Berg panel arm on local grant. So you'll see that my type is intrusion area and my subtype is master delay and arm. So in this case, I'm going to select both of my intrusion areas, office and warehouse. Now you'll see this option here, toggle arm and disarm. If you were using one reader to arm and disarm, if you were to check this, each time you present a valid credential, it would toggle between arm and disarm. That probably wouldn't work real well unless you had a dedicated arming station just for arming and disarming. So in my scenario, I'm going to assume that you are disarming when you present a card to an exterior reader, in this case the front door, and then to rearm, you're going to present your credential to a separate reader, which is the arming station. So once I finish the configuration here, I will set up my second global action, Berg panel disarm on local grant. So what we'll do differently from the last global action is we will set the subtype to disarm. And so when this global action is executed, it will disarm these two areas. Now the next thing we need to do is set up our triggers or global linkages. So my first global linkage will be Berg panel arm on local grant. Now what you see here is that I've selected under devices, I've selected door. Specifically, I have selected the door labeled Berg Arming Reader. Now after I select that and save it, I will go over to events, and then I'm going to select local grant as well as local grant not used. And then finally, I will go to after I save that, I will go to the Actions tab, and then I will select the global action that I configured in the previous step, Berg panel arm on local grant. I will save that, and now I'll configure my second global linkage, Berg panel disarm on local grant. So first thing I'll do is give this a name, then I will save it and go to devices. Again, I'll select door. And this time I want to use one of my exterior doors. In this case, I'm going to use my front door. So I'm going to move that over to members, save this, and then go to events. And again, I'm looking for a local grant or local grant not used. And so I will save that and then go over to actions, and I will select Berg panel disarm on local grant. And then I will save that. Now that will take care of the global actions and linkages, but we still have a little bit more work to do. So next we're going to go over to identities. Now I'm going to pick an identity that I already have in the system. In this case, it's my identity. And I want to make sure that my identity has a role that allows it access to both readers that we're using here, which I've already done. And then finally, I need to go to tokens. Now, this step, I will, if I have an existing token, that's fine, or I can create a new token. And then I need to scroll down to the bottom, and I need to link this token to a Bosch user account. So I already have the user set within Bosch, so I just took my account and moved it over to members and then saved it. And then one more step you need to verify within RPS to make sure this will work properly is if you go into the RPS software, you go under user configuration and then go down to user assignments. Make sure that the users that you want to allow to disarm the panel with their token, make sure they have mobile access set to yes. And you can see on my account here, I do have it set to yes. Okay, so that completes our configuration. Now we're ready to test to make sure everything works properly. So I'm going to go back over to doors. And you can see here that we have 2 doors. These other doors are not online currently, but we're going to be using the front door and the Berg arming reader. First thing we're going to do is make sure that our intrusion status is set to disarmed or ready to arm. So now we verified that status, we're ready to test our credential at the arming reader to make sure that the intrusion panel does arm. Okay, so now I'm going to present my credential to the arming reader. So I've got a local grant on my system. Now we should see the intrusion panel start to arm, and you can hear it in the background. It's going through its delay. Okay, so now the intrusion system is armed, and we should see that status change here, which we just did. So now the intrusion system is armed. Now let's test to make sure that it disarms when we present our credential to the front door reader. Okay, so I presented my card to the reader. I got a local grant. We should see the status update here shortly. Okay, now it's back to ready to arm. So we know that our solution works. So that's it. Thanks for joining today.